Permits, it's something that all real estate investors are going to have to deal with. I'm going to go through the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to dealing with inspections and permits. I'm Ross, been buying properties for over 15 years, flipped over 300 houses, own 150 rental units, had a construction company that was doing multi-millions per year. So not only have I done it for myself, also done it for customers. Lots of permits, lots of subcontractors. Here we go. The good. First is, I have notes here, so I'm just going to read them off as we go. First is you get a built-in inspector. So this is really handy for those of you who don't know construction as well. These guys are coming in and they're codes enforcement agents, codes enforcement officers. But there's a book, your city, wherever you're at, your county has adopted a code book, the IRC, the International Residential Code. And in that book, and there's different years of it. So depending on where you're at, you'll have a different year, but mostly all the same stuff. Their job is to enforce what's in that code book. Your contractor's job is to know what is in that code book, not to know it, but know how to apply it, know what to look up. And that's what they do. So if you don't know construction, it's nice to have that codes enforcement officer that comes in and says, hey, that's not the code, i.e. that's the safety issue for you. And a sub item there is if it weren't for these inspections, for these codes enforcement officers, there are a lot of idiots out there that do things that are not good for houses. I've seen it all. The infamous Tennessee DIYer that I found out here happened a lot less when I was in Colorado because people didn't do their own work as much there. Sorry, Colorado. There's a reason I moved here. Update records. Okay, so when you go to sell your house, it is in your best interest to have increased square footage, right? Because now when you go to sell your house, let's say that houses are selling for $400 a square foot in your area. Well, if you have 1,000 square feet, that means it's going to sell for $400,000. But if you added 200 square feet, well, now it's going to sell for $480,000. That math adds up, right? So it is in your best interest to get the records updated, the square footage in the actual recordings from 1,000 to 1,200. And the only way to do that officially is to pull permits that you actually did that addition. Next is it's good to know you're not an outlaw. Right? If you break out of prison, you have to thank your whole life that people are chasing you. It's not cool to go to your job site every day. And we used to have to do this when we were scared of pulling permits. And you would put black trash bags up in the windows. And when you saw codes enforcement trucks going around, you'd jump on your belly because, you were scared of what the inspections were going to look like. By the way, we were only doing cosmetic rehabs. In hindsight, we probably didn't even need permits on most of the stuff that we were doing. But, a lot of people go through that fear when they're first starting out. So it's nice to know that you've officially faced the music. Easier to sell the property for sure. Depending on where you're at, there are some places where the real estate agents have basically been trained to look up the permits every time. In other places, they're not. Like when we were in Colorado, they would look it up all the time. Out here, some agents do it, some don't. Okay, but if you have done a rehab project that required permits and you didn't pull them, you go to sell the house, you could be running into some issues there. Next is your passing liability in some form. Okay, when you get things inspected by the city official, and they say it's good and they sign off on it, you have ground to stand on. If somebody comes to you after, let's say they bought the house, something bad happens in the house, and they try to sue you for something that happens, well, if you got inspections done and somebody signed off on that, you have some grounds to stand on. Don't know how that would work out in court, but it's going to work out a lot better than if you didn't pull permits and some bad stuff happened. And finally, it confirms that you're hiring legitimate contractors, because contractors have to have certain licenses to be able to pull the permits required. So if you are demanding that permits are pulled and they're able to pull them, you know that they've gone through some legitimizing. All right, now, enough with the boring stuff. Let's move to the bad, and we'll get to the ugly here. The first bad is cost. I mean, costs some money, and that's permitting fees, plans, if you don't know how to draw plans yourself, or some areas are going to require like architected plans with stamps on it, engineer stamps on it. Commercial is like especially bad. I know this isn't a channel about commercial, but right out here on one of my properties, doing a commercial job, and we weren't even doing anything with the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, but I had to pull a permit for the building. Then I had to pull a mechanical, electrical, and a plumbing and a gas. And the thing is, I couldn't just pull the permits. I had to actually get engineered plans for mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and gas, even though we weren't doing anything with any of it except for the plumbing. Right? Had to pay for all those plans, had to pay an architect, had to pay a landscaping engineer. All right. So all those plans also had to pay a permitting fee for each one of those. Okay. And then also the contractors are going to charge more because it's going to be more work for them, obviously. Next is your time. So it takes way more time. Guys, this project right out here, because of all those inspections, took over a year to do. Because you gotta go through all the planning, had to get all of the plans. Then I had to go through the plan submission with the city, and I had to wait for them to look. There was a lot of back and forth, and then I have to do the work. Then I got to get the inspection done. And then whatever was broken, got to tell, the contractors got to come fix it. And then we got to get another permit, could go back, or another inspection, could go back and forth quite a few times. And you guys know that like getting a contractor back isn't always as easy as, hey, we failed the inspection because of reason 1, 2, 3, come on back tomorrow and do that. Right? Yeah. It doesn't work like that. So sometimes you got to wait on all that stuff. Literally the one train of the year that goes by here. Sorry about that. Now, that is a commercial property that I'm talking about. It is a little bit easier on a residential remodel. But depending on where you're at, when we were back in Denver, I had to wait for plan reviews. I think that I spent more time getting and going through permitting on a residential remodel than I do out here in Tennessee on a commercial project. Just to give you an idea, depends where you're at is the point. A lot of time is going to be added. The obvious cost, scope expansion, which is also another cost, another time thing, but unbelievable on the train here. I mean, seriously, like once a quarter, maybe a train goes by here. The scope expansion. So you can try to write a great scope, and but the problem is that you don't want your scope of work to always be just tear everything out and start new. Of course that would work. Then you would know, like if you just tore every house down to the ground and rebuilt it, then sure, you could build it exactly to code. And, but of course, no investment would ever work for you. All right. That's extreme, of course, but there are certain things that are going to be grandfathered, meaning that the city's going to look at what's there and they're going to say, okay, that was there before. And the time that it was built to code. So we're going to go ahead and let that stay. And other things, they're going to say, yeah, you know what, that might've been right, but listen, we're going to have you go ahead and replace that. All right, this is grandfathering. We're not going to get too much in the weeds here, but you can see how it'd be really hard to say, here's everything that needs to get done. So you're inevitably going to run into scope expansion when you have permits and, they're coming in and they're asking for certain things. So scope expansion leads to time expansion, leads to cost expansion. And then you have the final on the bad before we get to the ugly is you got another workflow. All right. So for every project, as I'm going through like the PM list, I have to look at, I have to sign into the portal. I have to look at all the, for me, there's building permits and then there's mechanical, electrical, and plumbing permits. So a general contractor pulls a general permit. I'm a general contractor. And then underneath that general permit, there's all the subcontracts, the mechanical, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, which we also have an MEP company. So we go pull those permits. So I have to sign into both of those portals, and I have to manage those things. Did the permit get pulled? Got to do the back and forth there. Got to do the inspections. Got to talk to people in the portal up at the city. It's just another workflow that needs to be managed. Did this inspection pass yet? I forget. Are we past rough there? Did we get the electrical? So just another thing to manage. That's the bad. Now, the ugly. Here's the reality. Okay. I don't want to talk crap on the city because they're just doing their job. I do think that there are certain municipalities that are worse than others. Some might have some egos. But, all in all, these guys are trying to do a job. And so you can't fault them too much. They can't let you get by with like safety and liability issues. But this is the reality. I have had multiple houses that I've bought, started work in. We open up the walls, we find stuff, and it leads to, the city makes me do a complete replumbing when like the plumbing was working, but something was off about it. Whatever. I mean, there are reasons for this, but just the point is that it's not something that I planned for. Full new plumbing all the way to the road. Got to do a street cut, $30,000 worth of work, full rewiring. Got to tear down all the drywall. Got to re-drywall it. Thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. That was unexpected. And this has happened on multiple jobs. And take it even further, some of these properties get condemned. Okay, now you got to go through a whole thing to get them out of condemnation. I should probably do a video about how you get things out of condemnation. But anyway, you see how, this can lead to not only like blowing up a project, but blowing up your business. If you didn't know how to deal with these things, you guys do know how to deal with it. And if you don't, you've got access to my free for now school community. It's in the description here. But if you didn't know how to deal with these things, I have seen this kind of stuff put people out of business. Okay. There is a way to manage projects in a way that you avoid these big, scary things. I'm not saying to cut corners and not do things that need to get done, but there are ways to navigate projects that avoid some of this really ugly stuff. There are ways to, of course, look at properties before you buy them to make sure you're not buying one that is going to run into these ugly issues. But definitely some of my hardest projects have been caused because of a permit run like this. Okay. Avoidable. Yes. Now in hindsight, by smarter decision making. All right. But that is the ugly. So that is the good, the bad, the ugly of pulling permits, doing inspections. It's not all bad. I know that sometimes it feels like, these guys are out to get you, but they really are just doing their job. I doubt most of them even know who the heck you are. And so, when I look back at some of the issues that I've had, definitely a lot of them are me being an idiot or uninformed about something. There are definitely ones where I'm like, I think this guy is just trying to be, big boss guy. But anyway, it's just part of the business, guys. There's no reason for us to cry about it because it's going to continue to be part of the business. And so the only thing that we can do is learn the rules of the game and then use them to win. So guys, in the description, free for now, school community, come join me. Check out this video right here. Talk to you soon.